Welcome back to ENTC 2160 Architectural CAD. During our last video, we talked about the various tools that you have in Architectural Desktop that you can use, or at least you have at your disposal to be able to construct your architectural drawings that you will be doing for this particular class. And so we talked about the use of the mouse as an input device. We talked about the keyboard as also an input device, and how those letters on the keyboard can serve as quick keys that will allow us to access some of the tools that we have on our screen, as well as some of the drop downs that we talked about. We also mentioned the fact that a lot of the tools that you have here could also be accessed through your tool palette. For an example, you have the option of walls here. You also have the option of walls here. You have the option of doors here. And if we select this tab here, you have the option of various doors here as well, even a case opening. So again, AutoCAD recognize case openings as doors as well, even though you don't have a physical door there. So let's talk about the use of some of these tools now in actual construction. For an example, we talked about walls. So if we go here and select walls, we have all these options of walls that we can choose here. But what I'm going to do is just select a wall at the top here, and then I'm going to scroll here. Remember in an earlier video, we talked about some of the quick keys. The quick key that I'm using right now is F8, and F8 is orthogonal. If we come to the bottom of the screen here, we have these options here where we can choose object snaps, we can choose orthogonal. There's a lot of different things we can do, but this particular one is orthogonal, and that also responds to quick key or function key 3. So if I select function key 3, it allows things to particularly move on your screen. So let's begin to look here. Right now, I will also reflect on the first video that I showed you all. In the first video that I did, indicated that anytime you start a new drawing, you want to make sure that you've come to the architecture option, go to drawings, utilities, and then your drawing setup, and you're able to set your units and set your scales. Once you do that, you hit apply and OK. Well, why is that important for every new drawing? It's important for every new drawing because when you start drawing on the screen, it allows you to review or see the numbers. As you can see, the numbers here. This particular line is 28 feet 10 inches. You remember early on in the video we talked about the precision, and I indicated that the precision in architecture typically don't go down any further than 1/4 of an inch, not the 32nd and 64th, even though there may be some exceptions when we do that. So as I move my cursor across the screen, what you're actually seeing is the length of the line. Notice as I move the cursor, the tightest that this number is 1/2 an inch. That's because when I set the precision, I set it for 1/2 an inch. I also talked about the middle mouse button, how it allows you to zoom up and down. If you hold it down, it pans. It allows you to pan around on the screen, but as you can see here, I can move it up and down, and it allows me to zoom. So I'm going to leave it about right there, pan up a little bit by holding the middle mouse button down, watching the numbers, and I'm going to just create some walls. As you can see here, I'm creating some walls, and notice how these lines are connecting, or these walls are connecting. And as you can see, each of these walls are connecting at each corner, and you see a little green box on each corner. When these green boxes show up, what that means is that you can have perfectly connected walls, as you can see here. Now, the reason you can do that is because you have these snapping points on. So what we're actually doing is snapping from one end to the other. So what we see here are walls. And the good thing about walls is that we can stretch walls, we can move walls. For an example, if I use my left mouse button, as we indicated in the earlier video, is that it allows you to select options. So I can choose this little middle box right here, and I can stretch this down a little bit if I wanted to create more space, or I can do vice versa. If you don't want this and you say, oh, I think I made a mistake, you can always go back to this arrow here, and this is your undo. And if I select the undo, you can see it went back to where it started. Or if I select this and bring this down here, and you want to end that operation, one of the things that I indicated in the earlier video is that when you want to go back to where you started, you just simply hit escape. So now we've created some walls, and if you wanted to edit some interior walls, you can put some interior walls in here as well. In our next video, we'll talk about putting interior walls in here, but for this, we want to do is just talk about stretching the walls in or out to make sure you have the flexibility of doing that. You have some arrows here, and these arrows allow you to point a wall, or at least it allows you to draw a wall in a different direction. For an example, when I drew this wall here, I started from the top and I came down. At least I think that's what I did. Or I started from the bottom and I went up. Either way, that arrow will say if I started here, this is what the arrow is telling me. The arrow is pointing in that direction. It's telling me that I started this wall from here and I drew up in that particular direction. Now, because I have a basic wall will not really have an impact by changing the arrow. So if I select this, what that arrow now does, it indicates that this wall, I've changed the direction. Even though I am not drawing it a second time, this is allowing me to change the direction after the fact. And so let me give you an example where this can actually make a difference. I'm just going to pan this over a little bit by holding down the middle mouse button, and I'm going to come over and select a brick wall. And I'm going to create a brick wall. I'm going to create a brick wall this way. I'm going to come down here like this. Now I'm going to escape out, and I'm going to come and start my brick wall from here and draw it that way. And I'm going to hit the right mouse button, or let me just hit escape. I'm going to just hit escape right now because I want to get out of this. Now, if I look at this wall now, just like we were talking about this wall, if I select this wall, the arrow is pointing down. Now, if I select this wall, this arrow is also pointing downward, right? AutoCAD has a tendency to like you to draw in the same direction. For an example, I'm going to select this wall. Notice the arrow is pointing in that direction. Notice the arrow here is pointing in that direction. Notice this arrow is in that direction. This arrow, and finally that arrow. Notice AutoCAD, look at the way I drew this. I started here, notice the arrow direction, this arrow direction. I started here and I went around. But notice this one right here, this is different. The arrow is pointing here, it goes up and it comes over, but then the arrow is pointing this direction. If I had a different kind of wall, it wouldn't work right. So let's change this arrow after the fact, and now what this is doing is like drawing the wall in the opposite direction. So now AutoCAD likes when you go around in the same direction like this. As you can see, where you start, you want to end up. Now, you can't really if I hit escape, get all of these other points away from this drawing, you can't really tell how this is being drawn because these are basic walls. But if I come over to the brick walls, notice what happens. Select that brick wall, select that brick wall, select that brick wall. Notice here, I started here, the arrow is going to the right in that direction. Then the arrow is going down in this direction, but now the arrow is pointing in the opposite direction, which creates an issue. So what does that mean? Well, look at the corners here in terms of how the walls clean up. This wall is cleaned up in this corner right here where these two walls intersect, but down here is different. Well, it's different because AutoCAD doesn't like you to be drawing walls going towards each other. They like you to have a continuous motion when you create the walls. So how can I change this? Well, if I select this wall, change the direction, guess what? It automatically cleans up that corner. So again, that's how we create walls. So thank you for tuning in and looking at how we create walls. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out. Again, thank you for being a part of ENTC 2160, and I look forward to further videos. Thank you.